Currently, a private club in Dallas had just turned away John Wayne, the biggest movie star in America, because he showed up with a black colleague from the film industry. The doorman kept his voice smooth and respectful. The club did not allow mixed company. That was the rule. No exceptions. John Wayne could have pulled rank. He could have flashed that famous grin and pushed his way past the velvet rope. He could have made it loud, messy, and front-page news by sunrise. Instead, he made a move nobody saw coming. What happened in the next 3 hours would shake that club to its core, crack a decades-old power circle, and turn into one of Hollywood's most whispered legends. The Petroleum Club of Dallas sat high above the city, filling the top 2 floors of the Mercantile Bank building. It was Texas royalty territory. Oil tycoons, cattle kings, and men who signed million-dollar deals over steak and bourbon ruled those rooms. You did not just walk in. You needed old money, family ties, and a deep understanding of the quiet social codes that ran the South.
Oh, that little thing about the
I want to
show,
tell you that was well-deserved and it was beautifully done.
The rules were not posted on the wall, but everybody knew them. John Wayne had been invited by a business associate named Carl Henderson. They were set to talk about backing a new Western being filmed near Dallas. The dinner was scheduled for 7 p.m. John arrived early at 6:45, dressed sharp and steady, with Woody Strode at his side. Woody was a former professional football player who had stepped into acting and made his mark. He had appeared in several of John's films, including The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Over time, they became real friends, not just co-stars reading lines. So when John got invited, he invited Woody too. Simple as that. The doorman spotted them walking up. His smile froze mid-greeting. "Good evening, Mr. Wayne. We're honored to have you at the Petroleum Club." "Thank you. We have a dinner meeting with Carl Henderson." "Of course, sir. Mr. Henderson is already seated." Then came the pause, a stiff breath. "However, I'm afraid there's a situation." "What kind of situation?" The doorman glanced at Woody, then back at John. "The club has certain policies regarding guests." John understood right away. "You're telling me Woody can't come in?" "I'm telling you the club has rules about mixed company. It's not personal, Mr. Wayne. It's simply how things are done here." "How things are done?" "Yes, sir. The members have certain expectations, traditions that have been in place since the club was founded." John looked at Woody. Woody's face was controlled, steady, the kind of calm learned from years of dealing with unfair treatment without letting it show. "I've eaten in worse places," Woody said quietly. "There's probably a diner nearby. I'll wait for you." "No." John's voice locked in, strong, final. "You're not waiting anywhere. We were both invited to this dinner." "Duke, it's not worth the trouble." "It's exactly worth the trouble." John turned back to the doorman. "I'd like to speak with whoever's in charge." "Mr. Wayne, I really don't think..." "Get me the manager. Now." Within minutes, the manager appeared, Robert Calloway, tall, thin, silver hair slicked back, the kind of man who survived by keeping powerful people comfortable. "Mr. Wayne, it's an honor to meet you. I understand there's been some confusion about our policies." Your doorman explained it clearly. "Then you understand that our hands are tied. The club's membership has certain expectations. I understand that you're refusing entry to my friend because of the color of his skin." That's an oversimplification. It's exactly what's happening. John kept his voice calm, almost too calm. That made it heavier. "Now I'm going to give you a choice. You can admit both of us. We have our dinner meeting. Everyone goes home smiling, or there's another option." Calloway swallowed. "And what is that?" "The other option is that I leave right now and start making phone calls. Calls to every newspaper in Texas. Calls to my friends in Hollywood. Calls to the national press. John paused just long enough to let it land. I imagine the headline, "John Wayne denied entry to Dallas Club," would get attention. And when reporters ask why, I'll tell them the truth. Calloway's face drained of color. "Mr. Wayne, you wouldn't." "I would, in a heartbeat." The weight of that threat hit hard. If the story broke, the club would not just look old-fashioned, it would look cruel. The members would explode with anger. Sponsors would distance themselves. Business partners would question their judgment. Decades of polished reputation could crack overnight. Calloway straightened his jacket, trying to steady himself. The silence stretched tight between them. Up in those polished floors above Dallas, the most powerful men in Texas were about to learn that their quiet rules were facing a storm they did not expect. "Should have thought about that before you decided to humiliate my friend." John's voice cut through the marble lobby like a blade. "I didn't decide anything. The policy has been in place for decades," Calloway shot back, trying to keep control. "Then maybe it's time to change it." Calloway glanced at Woody, then back at John. He looked trapped. "If I make an exception tonight, every member will hear about it. There will be consequences." Consequences for whom? For me, for the club, for the future of this institution. "And if you don't make an exception," John asked, "then things continue as they always have."
You know, if that was the way to do it.
Well, that's the way I'd want to do it if I was scared of the guy.
John went quiet, the kind of silence that makes people nervous. "Let me tell you something, Robert. I've been famous for a long time. I've learned that fame is a tool. It can build something real, or it can be wasted on nothing. Tonight, I'm going to use it for something good. I'm giving you a chance to do the right thing. The choice is yours." Calloway excused himself and disappeared into a back office. 15 long minutes passed. John and Woody stood in that polished lobby under crystal chandeliers, surrounded by giant oil paintings of Texas ranches and sunsets. Wealth was everywhere. Fairness was not. "You don't have to do this," Woody said quietly. "Yes, I do. It's just a dinner. It's just a club." "It's not just anything." John turned to face him fully. "I've stayed quiet too many times, looked the other way, told myself it wasn't my fight. The hell it isn't. You're my friend. Anyone who disrespects you disrespects me." He paused, jaw tight. "And it's 1963. The world is shifting. People are speaking up. Maybe it's time I push it a little harder." The elevator dinged. Calloway returned. His face was stiff, like he had already lost. "The board has been consulted. The answer is no. The policy remains in place. I'm sorry, Mr. Wayne, but we cannot make exceptions. Not even for you." John didn't blink. "Then I hope you're ready for what comes next." Calloway frowned. "What comes next? Something better than arguing her." John didn't storm out. He didn't yell. Instead, he calmly walked across the lobby to the elevator and pressed the button for the ground floor. "Where are you going?" Calloway demanded. "There's a restaurant on the first floor, open to the public. I've eaten there before, good steaks." John gave him a sharp smile. "You're going to keep your private dining room upstairs. I'm going to host mine downstairs. And I'm inviting everyone I know to join me." "You're going to eat in the public restaurant?" "That's right. Carl Henderson's meeting can happen just as easily down there as up here. And by the end of the night, I have a feeling your petroleum club is going to feel very empty." "You can't be serious." "Watch me." John and Woody stepped into the elevator. The doors slid shut. Calloway stood alone in the silent lobby, finally realizing this was about to turn into something big. The Mercantile Room on the ground floor was a high-end steakhouse, expensive, classy, but open to anyone who could pay the bill. No membership cards, no secret guest rules, no quiet policies about mixed company. John walked in with Woody like he owned the place. "We'll take the largest private dining room you have." "Of course, Mr. Wayne. Right this way." The room seated 24 people, big enough for a power dinner. John told the maitre d' to expect a crowd. Then he went straight to the phone. first call, Carl Henderson, still sitting upstairs at the Petroleum Club. John explained everything clearly. Henderson didn't hesitate. I had no idea they would do that. Duke, I'm mortified. Don't be, John replied. Just come downstairs and bring anyone else who was supposed to attend. Henderson agreed immediately. Then John started dialing more numbers. Friends in Dallas, business partners, film contacts passing through town, anyone with influence, anyone who mattered. His message was simple and direct. Come to the mercantile room. We're having a dinner party. And just like that, the real guest list started forming. Word spread fast. Within 1 hour, the private dining room was packed. Within 2 hours, John's crowd had taken over half the restaurant downstairs. Laughter, glasses clinking, deals being discussed. It felt like the real power room had shifted floors. Upstairs, the Petroleum Club was facing something it had never seen before. Members started hearing the story in pieces. John Wayne had been turned away. The reason? He showed up with his black friend. Now he was downstairs hosting a dinner in the public restaurant, and people were choosing sides. Some members looked uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. I'm not comfortable with this, one longtime member told Calloway. I've known John Wayne for 15 years. If he's not welcome here, I'm not sure I am either. The policy applies to everyone, Calloway replied, trying to hold the line. The policy is an embarrassment. The man did not argue further. He headed straight for the elevator. Send my resignation to my office. Others followed, not all of them. This was still Dallas in 1963. Some stayed loyal to tradition. But enough members left their tables to make the silence upstairs feel loud. Enough empty chairs to spark whispers. Enough tension to make the board uneasy. Meanwhile, downstairs, the mercantile room was alive. The dinner stretched all the way to midnight. John Wayne sat at the head of the long table, Woody Strode right beside him. They talked about films, about business, about how fast the world was changing and who was brave enough to change with it. Then a reporter from the Dallas Morning News walked in, chasing rumors. Mr. Wayne, is it true you were denied entry to the Petroleum Club? It's true, John said plainly. Because of Mr. Strode, because of a policy that belongs in the past century. Do you have anything to say to the club's members? John leaned back, calm but steady. Every person has to decide what they stand for. Tonight, I stood with my friend. Some of the members upstairs made the same choice. They came down here to join us. Others didn't. That's their decision to live with. He paused, looking around at the packed room. But anger doesn't accomplish much. This does. The reporter raised an eyebrow. What's more powerful than confrontation? Alternatives? Options? Showing people there's a better way to do things? Showing them the world they're trying to protect is already changing around them. The story exploded the next morning. John Wayne walks out of Petroleum Club. Movie star takes stand against segregation. Dallas Club faces backlash after Wayne incident. Letters flooded the club's offices. Some praised them for tradition. Many criticized them hard. But all of them asked the same question. Is this what Dallas wants to represent? Businesses that had proudly held memberships began to rethink that pride. Oil companies connected to the club's name started calculating the public image damage. Executives asked themselves if being tied to an outdated rule was worth the cost. Quiet conversations turned into serious discussions. Within a month, the Petroleum Club board called an emergency meeting. The atmosphere was tense. Numbers were reviewed. Membership losses were counted. Public opinion was weighed carefully. The policy was changed, not because of government orders, not because of a court ruling, but because one night forced them to see their reflection in the national spotlight. And they did not like what they saw. 3 weeks after that dinner, John received a phone call. It was Robert Calloway. Mr. Wayne, I wanted to let you know that the club has changed its policy. All guests are now welcome regardless of race. I heard. There was a pause on the line. I also wanted to apologize personally for what happened that night. I appreciate that. Calloway exhaled slowly. You could have destroyed us. You could have started a public campaign and shut this club down for good. Instead, you just walked downstairs and had dinner. That's right. Why didn't you fight harder? John went quiet for a moment before answering. Because fighting wasn't the point. The point was showing there's a different way to do things. A better way. He let that sit. If I had stood in your lobby yelling about injustice, some people would have agreed. Others would have dug in deeper. Nobody would have changed their mind. It would have just turned into noise. Calloway didn't interrupt. By walking away, John continued, I gave people space to think, space to ask themselves what kind of place they wanted to belong to, what kind of men they wanted to be. His voice softened. Real change doesn't come from forcing somebody's hand. It comes from showing them an option they didn't consider before. On the other end, Calloway said quietly, You're a wiser man than I expected, Mr. Wayne. John gave a small laugh. I've made enough mistakes to learn a few lessons. That's all the wisdom I've got. Years later, Woody Strode was asked about that night in Dallas. What was it like walking into that club and being turned away? Woody didn't rush his answer. Honestly, it was normal. That was life in America in 1963. There wasn't a city in the country where something like that couldn't happen. He didn't say it with anger, just truth. Duke did what Duke always did. He stood up for people he cared about. Woody smiled when he talked about it. But what made that night special wasn't the moment at the door. It was what happened after, the alternative. Duke could have made a scene. He could have shouted, threatened, embarrassed everyone in that lobby. Instead, he built something better. Woody leaned back in his chair during the interview. He showed them their private club wasn't as powerful as they thought, that the world was bigger than their rules, bigger than their policies. Did it change how you saw him? The interviewer asked. It changed how I saw what was possible, Woody said. I'd spent most of my life pushing against walls, fighting them, trying to break through. Duke showed me something different. Sometimes you don't smash the wall. Sometimes you walk around it. Sometimes you build your own house. That was the lesson. Not speeches, not lectures. Action. The Petroleum Club of Dallas still exists today. It looks different now. Integrated, modern, polished in a new way. The policies that once defined it are gone. Most of the current members have no idea what happened in 1963. They don't know how close that club came to becoming a national symbol of something ugly. But the story survived in other circles. Film schools tell it as an example of how to use fame without turning it into a weapon. Civil rights discussions mention it as proof that influence can come from unexpected places. Actors pass it along quietly as a reminder that you don't always have to shout to make impact. John Wayne himself rarely brought it up. When reporters asked, he would shrug. It was just a dinner. I was hungry. Woody was hungry. We found a place to eat. Simple words. But everyone who was there knew it was more than that. It wasn't a protest march. It wasn't a boycott campaign. It wasn't a dramatic speech on courthouse steps. It was a man refusing to accept an insult toward his friend and choosing to respond with something smarter than anger. John didn't yell when they blocked the door. He didn't threaten lawsuits. He didn't turn it into chaos. He walked downstairs. And in doing that, he exposed something powerful. He showed that exclusivity loses its shine when people simply stop valuing it. That policies built on exclusion fall apart when influence walks away from them. He proved that power isn't always about forcing entry. Sometimes it's about making the room you were denied suddenly feel small. That was the real shift that night. Not confrontation, creation. Not humiliation, replacement. Not rage, strategy. John Wayne could have won the argument and lost the bigger picture. He could have forced his way inside and spent the evening surrounded by cold stares and fake smiles. Instead, he stepped out. And in stepping out, he made the bigger statement. He showed that the world was moving forward, with or without permission. He showed that people don't change just because they're cornered. They change when they see something better standing right in front of them. In the weeks that followed, the shock waves from that night kept moving through Dallas like a slow, steady storm. At first, some members of the Petroleum Club tried to downplay it. It was blown out of proportion, a few said behind closed doors. Others insisted it had been a misunderstanding. But the truth was harder to hide. Membership renewals slowed. A handful of longtime names quietly disappeared from the roster, and the board knew exactly why. The club had survived wars, recessions, oil crashes, but it had never faced a public spotlight like this. Local radio stations debated it. National columnists mentioned it, not in a loud, screaming way, but in a sharp, pointed tone that carried weight. The message was clear. The world was shifting, and old institutions had a choice to make. Meanwhile, John went back to work like nothing had happened. Film sets, script meetings, ranch life. He didn't tour talk shows bragging about what he'd done. He didn't frame it as a grand stand. If anyone brought it up, he brushed it off. But in private circles, the story grew. Young actors heard about it and paid attention. Producers talked about it over lunch. Directors brought it up when discussing responsibility and influence. It became a quiet example of how power could be used without turning into noise. Woody felt the impact, too. Offers started coming in that felt different. Meetings felt less tense. Rooms that once seemed closed suddenly felt a little more open. It wasn't a miracle shift. It wasn't overnight justice. But something had cracked. One evening, months later, John and Woody were sitting outside after a long day on set. The air was cool. The sky stretched wide above them. "You ever think about that night?" Woody asked. John shrugged. "Sometimes." "You know it wasn't small." John stared out at the horizon. "It wasn't supposed to be big either." Woody smiled. That's why it worked. There was something powerful in that simplicity. No grand speeches, no self-praise, just a decision made in the moment. Friend first, fame second. Years later, as the country moved through deeper civil rights battles and louder national conversations, people would look back at moments like that one and see them as part of a bigger shift. Not the headline-grabbing marches, not the courtroom rulings, but the smaller decisions made in lobbies, at dinner tables, in everyday life. The lesson stuck. When faced with exclusion, you can demand entry, or you can build something better next door. That night in Dallas didn't just change a club policy. It changed how some people thought about influence. It showed that walking away can sometimes shake a system harder than pounding on its doors. And in the end, the most powerful move wasn't forcing the gates open. And here's the thing that really sticks with people. That night in Dallas was not about a steak dinner. It was not about a fancy club sitting high above the city lights. It was about choice. One man was handed a moment where he could flex power the loud way. And instead, he flipped the script the smart way. John Wayne did not beg to be let in. He did not try to force respect. He showed that respect means nothing if it has to be dragged out of someone. That move hit harder than any speech ever could. Think about it. How many times do people fight to be accepted by places that do not value them? How many times do we stand outside locked doors hoping someone inside changes their mind? That night proved something bold. Sometimes the real power move is building your own table and making it the place everybody wants to be. And once people saw that, they could not unsee it. The Petroleum Club changed its policy. Not because it was pressured by a court, not because someone passed a law. It changed because the image of being left upstairs alone while the energy moved downstairs was too loud to ignore. That is strategy. That is presence. That is influence used with precision. Woody understood it. The members who walked out understood it. Even the ones who stayed upstairs felt it. You do not always have to throw punches to win. Sometimes you just step aside and let the silence speak. Sometimes you create something better so strong, so inviting, that the old system starts looking outdated on its own. That is the legacy of that night. Not noise, not chaos, not ego. Just a calm, steady decision that shifted a room and then shifted a mindset. And if that story hit you the way it should, if it made you think differently about power, loyalty, and standing up the smart way, then make sure you show some love. Hit that like button so more people hear stories like this. Drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in that lobby. And if you want more untold moments, more real stories that history tried to keep quiet, go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. We are just getting started. See you in the next video.